Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of Naked Sunday. I am your host, Caleb Nelson, and I have my new friend, Leslie Swedish, on the program today. I'm starting to say this program thing. Every time I say it, I feel like I'm in the Midwest, like 1960s, like welcome to the program, like that kind of thing.
Just grounding down.
Just grounded. Leslie, thanks for showing up and hanging out with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back in your presence.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. I'm excited to just be hanging with you today. Um, and if you haven't gotten to this part, the podcast has evolved as I've come along with it. So you said you're still listening to like the when I was still in like the pandemic time. So holy smokes, that's what, a few years ago now.
Yeah.
But I evolved into, I really love starting all my episodes with why I appreciate my guest.
Mm,
And I do this because I believe we need to start telling each other why we love each other. Far
mm.
be it for me to say, probably a great place to start on maybe a little path towards world peace or something like that. But that's just me.
Absolutely.
But with that said, we got introduced because a friend of mine, Cody, I
Yep.
believe she connected us. She was like, "Hey, you need to talk to this." But your post on social media was like, "Hey, I'm just trying to look for people to refer and connect with and have good conversations. Just find more people." And then we had this beautiful conversation. And what really struck me was like, you really genuinely care about the well-being of your clients, but it's not about you. It's about like, how can I be truly of service to these people? And you have this very collaborative energy about you. And in a day and age where it seems like everybody is just always out for themselves, to see somebody who's truly saying, like, what is truly the best for the people that I am responsible to and who I'm serving? How can I make more connections in this world? And I see that as you're operating from this place of abundance and love and collaboration. And not only do I find that the people that we serve really benefit from that, but like the ripple effect from that is so profound. So I really love that you operate from that place. And that's what I appreciate about you. So thank you for being you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's interesting that you bring that up. When I operated the Moxie Women's Foundation, the thing that I said over and over again was there should be no competition among women. Instead, let's dance together and attract abundance into our lives. And I really do believe that, there's plenty of everything to go around until, I mean, I can bring it back to the tarot card, the Four of Pentacles. If you're familiar with it, anybody listening, you have a figure that has a coin on his head, a coin in each hand, and he's got a coin under each foot. He's so mindful of holding on to those coins, he couldn't possibly reach for anything else.
Mm.
And it's something that I refer back to a lot. When your hands are so full holding on to everything, you can't reach for anything else.
That's a beautiful illustration. It made me think of uh like my friend Sal. He quoted something like, you can't shake hands with a closed fist, and just things of that nature. Like, it's so obvious when you can put a visual around that. Like, your success is actually only limited by playing small and scarce that way. The success we can create by working together and opening ourselves up to more. Yeah, sometimes we get burned. Sometimes it always doesn't work out perfectly, but there is so much love and abundance out there that if we can stay open and collaborate and work with others, that energy just expands and it's so much better. But man, I love that. Ooh, I don't know. Do you have any tarot cards on you? Maybe can you do a reading?
Absolutely.
Oh, can we start? I've never started one. I've had a couple people just end them with it. Let's do a tarot card reading to start today. Let's do this. Let's do this. You got me fired up right now. Okay.
Do I have tarot cards? Of course I have tarot cards.
I listen, I never know. I did a tarot card class practice thing. It was by happenstance. I didn't like plan on it, but like was well, I was at a work at a conference. My buddy and I were the only two men at an all women's conference. And that was the first time I ever been taught any of it. I was like, yeah, there's an option. I'm gonna choose this. Let's go see what's going on here. And that was pretty cool. It was really fun. And then, of course, again, the only two dudes
Yeah,
kept going to the same same project, the same workshop thing.
I love tarot. It's such a metaphor, and it's almost a little bit of how I came into hypnotherapy. I really started reading tarot. I think I was around 17 years old when I got interested in it. And I had a deck that I just never connected with. It was a little strange. The book that went with it was, ridiculously thick. And you had to almost learn this whole backstory before you could get into it. But I kept it with me for years and years and years, and I'd pull it out once or twice a year. And then I got more into and serious about tarot a few years ago. And, for me, it was already about diving into the subconscious. It's all about metaphor. And, I would say to people, like, I'm not going to tell you whether or not you can buy that black Mercedes next month, but I can show you where some blockages may be that might hinder you from getting it, or what you need to work on in order to get there. And it was in really wanting to help people in a way that was maybe a little bit taken more seriously than what originally started as playing cards, that I, went down a rabbit hole of all different types of training programs and finally landed on hypnotherapy.
Mm.
So what are we reading about?
Well, at the time of this, when we're recording this, so everybody knows, what are we, the 22nd today? My daughter has not been born. It's been a weird wave of emotional roller coaster the past few weeks. I've been confronting a lot of fears like
Mhm.
that come in waves because I'm like, oh my God, this is really about to happen. All the unknowns and all the things. So I think that something around that. I don't know exactly what, but there's a lot of birthing of ideas, not only just my new this new life that's going to be coming into this world, but also I got some new things that I'm working on with business. So maybe something around there. I'm just going to be open and see what comes up.
Okay, yeah, we'll just we'll pull a couple of cards and we'll just kind of read the energy and see what they have to say. All right. So we have the Knight of Wands, and let's see. Read on this. It's so for me. So we have the Knight of Wands, which is an energy of kind of taking charge and being very actionable. So there's probably something that you're in the process of doing. Like, I would say that you've got something moving that's probably not quite baby related, like, because clearly you're going to be working towards something. But it also looks like with the Six of Swords reversed that you have been doing a lot of work. So you're working towards something. You've put a lot of things behind you. You've kind of released a lot of things and are crossing over the emotional waters and doing even more contemplation than you have before. But there's a little bit of an aspect of still something. Let me just get a little feel for this. So there's still something going on where maybe you're creating a little bit of a problem for yourself, and it's all going to be up here in your mind. And it's going to take a little bit more emotional diving. So what I'm picking up on is that there's some big emotional thing that's stuck in here that maybe a little bit more meditation will allow you to cross over whatever this one last thing is that's kind of stuck, to get to that place of feeling ready to go. Does that resonate?
It does. Yeah.
There's one, it looks to, what I'm really feeling is that there's one kind of thing nagging at you in your head that you haven't figured out how to bypass or get around or work through. You know what it is.
The weird part is I think I know what it is, but at the same time,
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know what it is, which is
Okay.
really, to me, the most frustrating thing. This is so much fun, by the way. This is one of my favorite ways I've ever started an episode. Um, One of the most frustrating things in life for me is to not know.
Mm.
I like to know. I like to just understand things. My One of my best friends says all the time, you say the word understand all the time because I
Yeah.
like to understand things. So when I feel like there's a haziness or
Mm.
a like I haven't like put the pieces together, the head and the heart, and I don't know what it is, it's incredibly frustrating to me. So
Well,
that's what
that speaks a lot to Aquarius placements. Aquarius is all very much in the head. And also, going kind of back to, hypnotherapy and what I do, our brain likes the knowns more than anything else in the world. Even if those knowns aren't good for us, the only thing that is safe to our subconscious is the knowns. So, um, I flipped one more card for you to see if we could get a little bit of clarity. And it's the Queen of Swords, which is in reverse. So, the Queen of Swords can often represent a very strong woman. Sometimes it's referred to as the in one of those unkind words about women. Um, but it's reversed, so there's a softness there. So this may have to do with if there's a woman involved, some type of tether to a woman figure, if that
hmm,
if that helps at all.
hmm. It does. I mean, my first thought with all things in mind comes like to my mother, but I'm also the irony at the same time. So this is when this is released that people are getting sneak previews for anybody who listens to this. Uh, Friend slash client of mine, her and I have been working on creating something called the Empowered Mom Project. That's going to
Mm,
be like one of the flagship programs that I offer going into the future. So we're here on the precipice of this thing being birthed into life. And when you think about those things, that strong woman, empowered woman, and I've been thinking a lot about my name and like my
mm,
life expectations. A lot of my stuff with the church and the cult growing up, my mother was like the heavy handed portion of that, like fitting into those structures and the ways it has to be. And a lot of my life has been learning, how do I be myself? What is my path? What do I care about? So that was, those are my initial off the rip thoughts of where that's connecting to right now. But I think I'm going to meditate on that one a
I was
lot.
gonna just say meditate on it and see what comes up.
Yeah. Wow. I love that we just started like that. That was fantastic. I love that people can kind of get a little taste of just like even your own personality and how you go about things right off the rip. Look at my headphones are already dying on me already. Um, this was just that was cool. I knew we were gonna have a blasty blast today. This was great. Let's do this just because I know we could just keep rolling with it. I want people to still understand, like, hey, who's this person? So let's do this. Like before we go anywhere else, Leslie, share with the audience, who are you?
So I am a certified master hypnotist. I'm a mother of three. I own two coffee companies. I'm an artist, I'm a creative, I'm a healer, I am a nature lover. I'm a whole lot of things wrapped into a little, package of dreadlocks and tattoos and quirkiness and but my passion, my biggest passion right now is hypnotherapy. I have come into something that I absolutely love. I am very, very at home in this. If you had told me, many, many years ago that this is something that I would be doing, I would have told you you were crazy. I spent 8 hours on a Saturday doing a seminar on psychosynthesis, transpersonal psychology, and I was totally geeked out for the entire 8 hours going, I can't wait to bring this forward to these clients because it's profound. Some of the exercises that we did, helped me tap into things that I hadn't discovered yet and I get to heal and grow on this journey as well. So that's just a little bit right there. A lot.
A little bit. It's a little bit, all those many
Yeah.
hats and all those different things.
Oh
Wow.
yeah.
I'll say this. You could just see your eyes light up too. Like there's no faking how
Yeah.
much you are excited about the stuff you're doing. And as a like selfishly in my life, there's nothing more enjoyable than to just watch people do what they're great at. It's so like I think we all have that universal connection. It's when like there's an incredible musician and you're just all it's almost like a mass hypnosis when you watch them just hit these beautiful notes or they write that have those these deep soulful lyrics or whatever and everybody just gets captivated in it like we're so mesmerized by greatness when somebody is achieving their greatness. So I love like I could see it there. I'm like, this is fun, let's go, like I'm here right now, this is so great.
And
um
you did, and you hit it right on the head. It actually is mass hypnosis in those types of environments, which is it's a lot of fun for me to explain to people when they come in for the first time just what hypnosis is to dispel any of the myths or misconceptions. And that would have been a great example. If you go to a concert, the lights, the music, the it's an overload of messaging units that just kind of puts us into a trance-like state. So you're exactly right.
that was just me winging it for a second, so I like that you gave me more depth behind it because it's so cool. I want to get to like how did you get there? Like take us on the story, the journey of you all the way up to where we got now, because it's such a like you're just cool. Like a couple coffee companies, some hypnosis stuff like this. Okay.
Well, we
What's
don't
that?
we don't have time to go all the way to the beginning, but I'll try to do a brief synopsis. I have been a CNA, a tattoo artist, an airbrush artist, a real estate agent. I've done many, 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 many things. And then it was several years ago that I was not in a great place in life. I wasn't doing the coffee company just yet. I think I was still a hairstylist, but my relationship was suffering. My husband asked for a divorce and I believed him. And not only did I believe him, but I recognized that the issues that we're having in this marriage were issues that I had experienced in other relationships. And, I didn't understand the cycle and the pattern. So I started on my own healing journey. One of the first things that I read was How to Do the Work by Nicole Perla. And I had some, eye-opening moments. And what was most interesting to me was that it wasn't rocket science. It was just kind of like I needed somebody to wipe it away so I could see it clearly. And there was one moment where I was like, oh, I'm kind of just sitting here waiting for my husband to just make me happy, to fulfill needs, but I don't even really understand what my needs are, so I can't communicate it to him. And then I'm just mad because I'm not happy. And so I really, I did a lot of big deep dives in my own healing journey. It took me to a very spiritual place where I got into like Wicca and you know, consciousness and nature, moon phases and astrology and tarot. And it was when I was reading tarot for people and we're going in depth. We're not talking about, whether or not you're going to buy a car next year. We're talking about what it is that you need to get it together so that you can afford to get this car. And so I really learned that I wanted to help people in a profound way, where it could be taken. And it's not that I don't love tarot. Tarot is fantastic, but I wanted some credentials behind me. So, and I didn't want to, do some kind of program that was a couple of weeks and I print off a certificate and yay, I'm going to fix your life. I wanted a real education. I wanted real credentials because I wanted to genuinely help people and feel confident that I was able to, because I had a lot of, probably the reason that I was a lot of things and didn't stick with them was limiting beliefs and not really having not ever feeling like I had enough of an education to continue with it, and always just kind of pulling back at the last minute. I'm not good enough. I haven't learned enough. So it's really been wonderful to get here, and I continue to grow and learn within it. I feel like I'm myself in therapy 30 hours a week. And it's helped, my family, my relationship, my children, my friends, and it's just been great.
Wow, that's incredible. Especially like how you're opening up. I think, I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today. It's like really hard for people to kind of see the pattern. The work
Mm,
just getting to the pattern and being able to separate yourself in the moment and observe the moment. Like,
yeah.
oh, this is a cycle. The amount of work it usually takes to just get to that moment is the biggest thing. And then seemingly like the work after that, it's almost like exponential growth. But the beginning, it just seems like this like you're just slogging through it. But once you,
Yeah.
oh, I see it now. It's so obvious. Oh, I need to sort this out. That was pretty interesting to hear how you had, illustrated that and then said, oh, okay, now I'm going to go do the work this way. That was, I just don't think enough people understand like, oh, that is what's going on, but it takes so long to just see it.
It does. And, I say this all the time when I talk to people and they're, a little resistant, it's still a little woo for them, it's like, unfortunately, it's all the stuff that you've been hearing. It's gratitude. It's persistence, it's nutrition, it's getting good sleep, it's all of those things. And we have a tendency to go, oh yeah, 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 I know that. And it's like, you know it, but how much of it are you doing? And I even have to find myself checking myself occasionally, going, I know all of these things, but what am I actually doing? Am I doing those steps? I know to get enough sleep, but am I still allowing myself to just get one more episode in? I know that I have to move my body, but am I just cramming one more lesson in? So it's almost annoying that it's the stuff that you keep hearing over and over again from those super happy people, where 10 years ago I was just like, eh. And now I'm one of them. I'm getting up and I'm eating kale, and I'm telling people to meditate and get good sleep, and I'm sorry, one day you might appreciate it.
Mm, wow. Yeah, I mean, I can resonate with that. And it's hard. I guess, do you find a lot of people feel real resentment towards that? Or like, what is that dynamic where we see that person who is happy and then we just want to ultimately feels like we want to reject the things that they're saying? I feel like it becomes this very combative relationship with somebody being happy. I don't know if it's like, I think people perceive it as like it's fake that they want to help them, or it's just like, you're just handing me kind of, I don't know, the cookie cutter advice, or you're just
Yeah.
reading from a script. What is that? It's sad because I feel so bad for people who can't tap into that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, it's just, it's again, it's that subconscious knowns. If all you've known your whole life is to fill your time and space with television, and have quick meals, if your idea about food is to make it quick and convenient, and the nutrition piece isn't in there, and you haven't cultivated an appreciation for the art of making food, or even the act of making food, the nurturing of making food, it's really just that. It's I don't know this is unfamiliar to me. But what I find is like, if somebody just asks me conversationally about something and I'm like, ah, kale, I get a lot of resistance. But if somebody is in my office sitting down and they're ready to do the work, hypnotherapy tends to be one of the last stops. It's where they've tried other things and it hasn't been working. And so they come to me, and then they're finally ready to have those conversations, and they're like, okay, I'll do that. But I also have a way of, I try very hard to explain to people why. in as much detail as I possibly can, because nobody wants to be told to do something if they don't have a full understanding of it. So when I'm telling my clients, you need to try to eat 3 protein heavy meals a day with snacks of protein about every 3 hours, because leveling your blood sugar is going to stop your body's intelligence from putting you into fight flight, because and I go into pretty in-depth stuff where it's not just like do this because it'll make you feel better. So I think that's helpful. People like to know why. And then with hypnotherapy, we talk about it cognitively, and I have to get them on board and understanding it cognitively before we can go in and work on the subconscious, because 88% of everything we do all day is subconscious. So you can have somebody that wants to make a change and they can want to do it all day, but they've only got like 12% of their brain working for them because of all that subconscious programming of, I know I now want to eat kale, but my subconscious is going, no, we eat chicken nuggets. What is this green stuff? That's not safe. I don't know that. Where's my chicken nuggets? So
Specifically dino nuggets, because apparently those taste better than just standard chicken nuggets.
they are different. They are different. I mean, I think it's probably because they've got a little extra flour and sugar in there. So we get those little sugar bugs that are after it a little bit more, but that's just me.
Well, let's clarify a couple of things, because I do think, I mean, I think hypnotherapy is starting to get a little more acceptance,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of like, how do we marry the woo with like the practicality? And I think there's an important middle ground, because it's hard, especially if somebody's so in the practical, literal, and they're in that fight or flight. It's hard to think that, I'm going to call it this softer approach. I don't think I have a better word for it right now. This more ethereal approach, perhaps, is the answer, because they're probably still like so stuck in that side of their brain, like they want this tangible thing to be able to wrap their head around. So could we like first explore like what is hypnotherapy from that, and like what are some like these common myths that are around it? Because not just like mind programming that you're going to be some robot that goes off and like sleeper cell agent kind of craziness or some, I don't know, that's why my mind goes to that kind of stuff, but like
Yeah.
if I'm thinking it, I gotta imagine somebody else thinks it's even more wild stuff than that.
Absolutely. So one of the first things that I do with people is it's called a pre-induction speech. And that's where I start to dispel a lot of the myths. And, I explain to people that hypnosis is a very natural state. We go in and out of it all day long. So, you were saying at a concert, that is a hypnotic state. If you're watching a movie and that movie has moved you to the point of crying or feeling scared, that is a state of hypnosis. If you have driven down the freeway and you've missed your exit because you weren't paying attention, or you don't know where the last several miles were, that's a state of hypnosis. And it's not a truth serum. You're not going to tell me anything that you wouldn't cognitively. You will have the ability to open your eyes and walk out the door anytime that you want. But most people feel so relaxed and so good in that state that they don't want to get up and walk out the door when I'm like, okay, time's up, next client's coming in. So, and then I think that when if you when you have an opportunity to talk to somebody about it, I do a little bit of social media, but I think that, the person to person thing is much more relevant. And when you hear how much of the psychology went into it, I mean, I can do a lot of very woo stuff where we can connect you to your spirit guides. We can do some visualizations that are very spiritual. We can talk about chakras and chakra clearing. But, we can also talk about very psychological things. I have training in, cognitive behavioral therapy. The seminar I just did was, psychosynthesis. So there's a lot of great scientific stuff there, and I can get a feel for my clients of, what direction they want to go. And that's what I really loved about hypnotherapy, was that I could combine the two. I could be very scientific and, not so tarot cards, but also we can pull a tarot card and use that for the whole session in the hypnotherapy to figure out what it is that we're working on. For instance, if you came to me, I'm worried, I'm about to have a baby, help me out, and I pulled the moon card, we're going to talk about illusions. you know so it can bridge the gap between the woo and get very scientific as well, and that's why I love it.
Very cool. As you're talking about this, my mother-in-law recommended to me a few years ago. What's the name of the book? Come on, Caleb. Um, Many Lives, Many Masters. Do you ever read that?
No, I've not.
It's a great book. And it's written by the guy, I think he was a psychologist or something at, I think it was the University of Miami. And he used hypnotherapy to do past life regressions with
Yeah.
patients. And in this whole book is centered around this one person who essentially broke his beliefs around a lot of stuff. It kind of opened his mind to a lot of it. So I think it's really cool that you're talking about how you can use both elements. And again, kind of meeting somebody where they're at, where do they feel more inclined to like stay? Like what energy do they resonate better with? Because it's a lot about finding the language that's appropriate for them that makes them feel connected to the experience. I don't know if I've been fully hypnotized. I mean, I've listened to like in the sense we're talking about right now. Like,
Mhm.
so okay, let's do that. I don't know what your practice is like. Did somebody come in, they lie down on a couch and they do that kind of thing?
So everything starts out cognitively. A first session is always the pre-induction speech. I do theory of mind so that people can understand how the different parts of the mind work. Our primitive mind, our subconscious mind, our critical filter, and how hypnotherapy can kind of bypass that critical filter. So between the ages of 0 and 8, we start to create all of our known associations. So we do pre-induction speech, we do theory of mind. I do some tests to find out what their suggestibility is, because another myth is that some people can't be hypnotized. Anybody can be hypnotized because it's a natural state. It's the state just before sleep. It's a trance state. But I have to find out how people take in information. So I do some testing, some of it's physical, some of it's cognitive. And then we talk about their issue. And, because I'm not a licensed therapist, my job is to lead the client to their own inner wisdom, because everybody really has their own answers. They just really often don't know how to get to them, or they don't know what the problem is. So I have enough training in so many different facets to be able to guide them to their own answers. And I take notes of, we call them the power words, so that when they go into hypnosis, I'm just feeding their words back to them. Because and for instance, if you said, I feel stressed, but I want to feel calm, but I said relaxed, your subconscious already has calm registered. So I need to use relaxed. And that's just another way of knowing how to speak to people's subconscious, so that those new ideas can really be latched onto and really be changed in that subconscious. So we do a cognitive portion, and then the hypnosis is about 15 to 20 minutes. And I do a lot of guided imagery, and sometimes it's literally just, saying to somebody, you're going to sleep better tonight. You're going to fall asleep quickly, calmly, and deeply, sleep comfortably through the night, awaken refreshed and ready to face the day. And then other times it's, doing a guided imagery of finding a boulder, and the boulder represents all of your obstacles, and there's a hammer, and smash the boulder and then take the pieces to build the road to your new life. So it's a mishmash of different things. And that's what's really wonderful about it is and the school that I'm doing is fantastic. They give us so many tools. And, I've learned about EFT, tapping. I've learned NLP. I've learned imagery. I've learned, psychosynthesis, so many different things. But there's a good portion of it that's cognitive before the hypnosis, because an hour in hypnosis, it's a long time.
I mean, I'm down. So
Well, So a past life regression is something that can be very lengthy in a hypnosis state. But that's one of those things that if somebody comes to me and they ask for a past life regression, then we do that. But you're not going to come to me and say, I'm having trouble sleeping and I'm going to let's do a past life. Unless the client brings it up, it's really not something that's not a tool that I break out.
Interesting. I might have to come for a past life regression. I've yet to do
Oh,
ever
very.
since I did ever since I read the book, and this is maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, I remember reading it and just being like, hmm, everything's gonna be okay. I don't know what it was about reading it. It just it said, and I think my mother-in-law said just as much. It's like there was something very peaceful about it.
Hmm.
But I was really liking about what you're saying there, especially when you said we all have this inner intuition. It seems to be the big thing of the past few conversations I've had, especially on the podcast. It's so strange that we're so bombarded by so many things and we lose sight of that. So it
Yeah.
sounds like in your practice, a lot of it is about quieting the noise and allowing them to come back to what they already know in their own, yeah, kind of in their own language, in their own way. And that's very cool. Where, everybody and their mother nowadays is trying to sell you on, you need this magic, such and such and such, and you like are not whole. You don't have like you don't know anything about it. Like, yes, people need guidance, but not. It's like there's just this reinforcement of scarcity that everybody's being sold to. Yes, we need other people in this life. I'm not saying we don't. Like, I think we're communal beings for a reason, and we need the collaboration to be truly successful. But this, I don't know, saviorism or scarcity based type of thing that you see everywhere,
Yeah.
it's so disheartening, and it's so refreshing in my perspective to see somebody goes, no, you have the answers. Yeah, we're going to help you tap back into it. And then, perhaps you're going to learn how to do this for yourself. And so you don't need this crutch anymore. This is more just like a temporary like support system. But eventually you can walk on your own 2 feet. That's so to me, it's just more inspiring. And it's more uplifting, and I think it's more prosperous for everybody involved, not just the person receiving it, but also like the practitioner. If you can help them, like I think so many people think that that's not a way to make money, which yes, we need to make money to survive in this practical world. But if you're the person who can help somebody truly let go of that crutch and truly feel confident in their own being again, you're not going to worry about making money. You're going to be people want.
Yeah, it's really amazing because it is a very capitalistic world where people have been fooled into thinking that they need all of these things. And one of the things that I have to tell people is hypnotherapy is not a magic wand.
Hmm.
You've got to do the work as well. This is going to help you make those changes a little bit faster because we're dealing with a subconscious. But you know, and I say to people, I don't know how many sessions it's going to take, but you know, it's not meant to be like talk therapy. You go into a talk therapy situation and you're meant to be there for infinity. Until you don't want to go anymore. And this is like we're dealing with a specific issue. And I'll have people come to me and like, I want to do this and this and this. Well, we're going to pick one and we're going to work on that. And then when that is satisfied, if you want to work on the next thing. But a lot of times one thing fixes the others. I've had people come to me because this is bothering them, and they've got all these other things, and it's like, well, actually, all of this is just anxiety. So we're going to just work on anxiety, and here's some breathing techniques, and here's some guided meditation, and let's work on your protein intake and keeping your blood sugar level. And well, now we don't need to work on 3 different things because we just cleared them all. And it's just an overall, people just have an overall better view on life. And I think it's just because if for an hour a week you get to do 2 things, you get to talk to somebody because they say, even though I am pointing them to their own intuition. You can't fix a problem with the same brain that caused it. So we're going beyond that logical brain that probably caused the problem. We're tapping into that subconscious. That's what I'm leading you to. I know how to constantly lead you back to your subconscious, but then you get to do a guided meditation that is going directly to the root cause. I mean, you can go and find a million guided meditations on Spotify or YouTube or Calm or whatever, but this is specific to your own language, specific to your own subconscious, specific to your own issues, and you just feel so good afterwards that it's a really great thing for people.
Two things that you just said really jumped out to me. One was that second piece there about the difference between, like, the Spotify playlist or whatever, and I've used those before, but contextually appropriate to the individual.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, that's what this all comes down to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a classic square peg round hole situation. Of course, it gets you close, it helps, but if it could be the exact fit for you and your own experience and your own story, well, you don't have to do all this weird translation and jumping through hoops to kind of make it all fit. And the other thing you were talking about that I thought really, really resonated for me was going towards the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
So many things are band-aid fixes in this life.
Yeah.
That's often what's being sold. Let me sell you the band-aid thing, but the wound is not actually healing underneath. Well, what if you went and actually healed the thing, the original source? You see how it bleeds out into everything else. Granted, that's a little bit harder and perhaps a little deeper work and sometimes a little scarier. But the long-term benefits of that is that you don't have to keep scratching at the same wound and then keep buying the new band-aid to slap it back on and still feel just as frustrated. I mean, I find people just continue to lose hope. And they're
Well,
like,
yeah.
go
And
ahead.
one of the things that I say to people is like, if you have asked your friend to go to the gym and you and your friend decide that we're going to go to the gym Monday morning 8 a.m. and Monday morning 8 a.m. you show up and your friend doesn't show up and you're like, okay, we'll do it on Tuesday. Tuesday morning 8 a.m. your friend doesn't show up. Are you going to ask them again? Eventually, you're going to stop asking that friend to show up, and that's what your subconscious has done. Your subconscious has gone, well, we haven't done that this far. We haven't stopped eating the cookies. We're not going to stop eating the cookies. Why would we stop eating the cookies? So I tell people, you've got to be your own friend that shows up. You've got to show up for yourself. And doing it in this way is really helpful because, again, we're able to talk to that subconscious part because it's all about patterns. It's all about the knowns. And sometimes it's as simple as identifying that, hey, it's just that my brain wants me to do the same thing. Homeostasis is like the key to everything. So I can't eat the green stuff because I just want the crumbly stuff. And then other times you've got to go a little bit deeper and kind of recognize, okay, so an example that I like to use with adults that have a difficult time making decisions. So one of the psychosocial stages of development, and this might be helpful for you with a little one on the way. I know I'm very mindful of it with mine. So I have three children. My oldest is 23, my middle child is 18, and then I have a 4-year-old. So they're all over the place. And when my son was really young, he had to be perfect, perfectly dressed, perfectly clean. And I told him one day, go get dressed. We're going out to dinner, like pick out something nice. It's a nice restaurant. And he's like, come on, just pick out the clothes. You're going to make me change. And I was like, huh. But he was so smart. But what I didn't realize was by taking away his choice, I was setting him up for potentially having a difficult time making decisions as an adult. So with my 4-year-old now, and there's a little bit of a line there, but if she wants to wear an Elsa dress with some crazy face paint and we're running to Price Chopper, I don't care about how people are looking at me. She's learning a developmental skill that is going to make her a whole adult. And I wish that more people knew about this so that we had fewer crazy looks in the grocery store that, So yeah, sometimes you have to go down to things that are a little bit more deep than just I want a cookie, and just say, okay, so you didn't have a lot of confidence in making decision. This is something that happened. We're going to impress on you now the ability to trust your own decisions, because now you understand that, there's a reason for this. And it wasn't because your parents were bad. They just, they didn't want the weird looks at the grocery store. They didn't know any better. So we're going to infuse the confidence in you now, because you have all of what you need to be able to make the decisions. And sometimes we'll bring in an imagery, a guide, a wise or a protector and things like that to carry them, forward. But it's great work.
Well, I think that story you just said right there resonates so well, especially with the audience, and knowing several of the listeners. And ironically enough, I was kind of talking about one of those things today. When we start asking, where I'm going with this is when we start asking, well, what is the purpose of parenthood? Is it not to prepare our child to leave? And I've been thinking a lot about this the past several years, because past 4 or 5 years was actually about me preparing myself consciously to be as close to ready of what I thought I needed to be for parenthood. And one of the main things I realized was like, it is that is this is it's this process of letting go of that and preparing them and saying, well, it's ultimately not even about me. I'm already seeing it. Like I see it in the conversation with my wife. So what you just talked about, my wife is very structured. It's got to be this way. It's got to look a certain way. Believe you me, it's been some battles in this house lately where stuff's got. I can see where she's gonna have a fun time with it. I guess what I'm going with this is like ultimately what I've learned in this field of coaching is that it is a lot about guiding people to make the decision with themselves, because ultimately they have to be able to go do it themselves.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think we can start taking that perspective. I think that's why I think what you shared there was so powerful. And I think the benefit of what you're showing in the shift there, especially is if you're teaching, you said there is a line in there, but if you're teaching a child or young person how to make these decisions in a, we'll call it a simulation, something that's like you can control some of the environment and the boundaries so that they're not going to like really hurt themselves.
Yeah.
You can still hold space for a conversation if things go sideways, if things don't work out exactly the way they want. You can hold space for that, and then they can work through the decisions and what they made, like maybe what they should do next time or how. But now they've become a conscious human being who can think through a problem without freaking out just because it's like all or nothing. Because us internally, as the guide or the leader, whatever you want to call it, couldn't hold space for that, couldn't allow them the freedom to go make the decision in the first place. I as somebody who's talked to a lot of moms who have had that very same struggle, I think that was so powerful for you to share that story, because it's interesting that that's a challenge for somebody to let go of that control there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and it's not, and it's parents that don't know any better. I mean, it's not like I wanted my child to be perfect because, of any other. He was my perfect little baby, and he was so handsome, you know. But I should have let him get more dirty. I should have let him mismatch his clothes. And there's so many things like, parents don't understand that. When a child is crying and you're like, oh, you're okay. You're trying, you think that you're fixing the situation. You're calming and soothing your child, but, maybe not, maybe you're setting up a precedent that your child doesn't feel safe in their emotions, doesn't feel that they can feel pain, that they can emote when they're hurting if you're just telling them that they're okay, because they're in a constant state of hypnosis. They are completely suggestible to everything. Everything you say to them is gospel. They believe in the Easter Bunny. They believe in Santa Claus. And that's from 0 to 8. And then it's not until like 9, 10, 11 that they start to develop that critical mind. So everything that's put in front of them, they're interpreting some sort of way. So we've got to do a lot of unpacking there and reprogramming so that adults and can learn how to emote, and just simply acknowledging where it comes from. I don't do talk therapy. I just I've noticed that you have a difficult time feeling that emotion. I wonder if perhaps when you were young, if you fell down and cried, if your parents rushed to your aid to calm and quiet you. And, now moving forward, we have an understanding that it's okay to emote, and we're going to just work on that. We don't stay in the past. We're always forward moving, and I think that's great because, we can talk about it in therapy and a talk therapy all day, mommy didn't let me cry enough, but what are we doing? We're like, that to me is almost like worshiping the problem. Like, acknowledge it, hold space for it, move it forward,
Ooh.
forward progress.
Yeah, I think it's powerful you just said that, because I think some recent research is starting to come out showing that a lot of people just perseverate on their old problems. And
Mhm.
then, like, of course, are still depressed because you're just focusing on the problem as opposed to, well, where are we going with it?
Yeah,
And I'm
exactly.
not saying that there's not value in therapy, but
Oh,
that
absolutely.
at the same token, there is a time and a place where I think a lot of people need to like graduate to the next phase and say, well, okay, are we going to move beyond that? So I think that's really important that you just distinguish that. I had a thought in there. Something you said really resonated, but I lost my train of thought of it. I gotta say, I'm just really enjoying your company right now. To start this thing off with the hypnotherapy was really. Where does the coffee like? How did that like? By the way, I love coffee, so you
Mm.
just brought that up. I'm like, how does how do those two worlds like you're balancing all these different hats? You already started off today's episode when you're saying, these are all the things I'm doing. I got the coffee company, two, not just one coffee company, two coffee companies on top of the hypnotherapy. Like, what's it like juggling all of that?
Um, it's not too bad. The coffee company kind of maintains itself. I am e-commerce and wholesale only. So, and I pay somebody to manage my website. So I package orders and I've got paperwork, but I have an accountant and I delegate all the other stuff. Um, and the other coffee company has I started the first one in 2020, and I had the idea of a very hustle grind culture. Um, and my coffee company is called Moxie because it's grit and determination, tenacity. My blends are blonde ambition, wild ambition, bold ambition. So it was all about ambition and very much a hustle and grind culture. And as I started to shift out of that and slow down myself, because when I sat in front of a coach, I was trying to lose weight because I had my daughter at 40. Pandemic hit and I was having a really difficult time losing weight, and I was doing all the things. I was following the meal program, I was doing the exercise program, and that scale wouldn't move. And she asked me about my stress and explained cortisol to me, and that's another part of how I got on my journey. But the coffee companies, they maintain themselves. My second coffee company is called Spellbound Coffee and Curios, so it goes off into that more spiritual thing. And my blends are infused with different herbs and botanicals for the spiritual properties. So I have prosperity and purify and tranquility. And then I kind of branched off into essential oil blends and diffuser oils, and I make body scrubs and skin care, and I love that. So the metaphysical aspects of that, I do sponge sprays, um, overlap with the hypnotherapy very, very well. I have given people mala beads and have said, I think trying to meditate and using these mala beads as your guide and your gauge as to how long you should be sitting and doing this is really wonderful. I've anchored certain um, feelings to sense. So, somebody that might have a fear of public speaking, I can anchor that calmness into a certain scent, and I give them a roller of essential oils, and that really helps them to be able to access that feeling of calm again later on. A lot of times I'll so yeah, that's kind of how the two blend together, and you just do it.
Well, what I thought was really cool in how you just even shared the story of the two coffee companies going from this hustle, grind, pun intended, I have to imagine,
Yeah.
culture, that was perfect, to this more harmonious
Mm.
style. It's such a, especially in just our current culture of the US, it is the hustle and grind until it doesn't work anymore. We have to evolve, and I'm speaking from personal experience. That's why I resonate so much. It's like it's unique how we almost settle into this different side of ourselves. We realize like we kind of like pushed this spiritual, flowy, harmonious element of ourselves. We've pushed it away for a
Yeah.
while. And it's this until we surrender into it, until all these other things. You said that you had tried all the things from in losing weight and all that, but have you talked about your stress? Like, oh no,
Well,
like what? So that's
no, I
opens
mean,
the doors. Yeah.
nobody had ever even asked me about my mental health before. Like, I didn't know what cortisol was. I had absolutely no idea. And I was like, well, no, I'm not stressed. What do you mean I'm not stressed? And she's like, well, what does your day look like? And I went through my day and it was like, well, I'm literally hunched over the keyboard as many hours as I can because what I didn't realize, and I still sometimes struggle with this, is a mentality of scarcity of time. You know, I had a baby, and you know, when the baby takes a nap, you got to get done as much as you can possibly get done. So, you know, where I didn't feel an overall stress, I had a lot of stress in my life and I wasn't eating. Like I wouldn't eat until dinner time because, you know, I don't have time to eat. I'm not gonna. So the coach that I worked with was really wonderful. So she's like, well, what if you just started eating lunch? And then when I got so I could eat lunch, she was like, well, what if you just ate lunch and not at the computer? You know, and you know, that's something that I teach people too is, you know, too much change too quickly, your subconscious mind is going to completely reject it. So you've got to take small steps. And if that means that for a week you're going to just sit up in bed instead of getting up and going for that run, then that's fine. Next, you put pants on. Maybe we'll get to shoes in a couple of weeks, but you know, we're not getting up and running on the first week. We've got to get there. So
That's hard to tell people though. That's
it
hard
is.
to tell people in a world full of comparison and the
Mhm.
keeping up with the Kardashians thing. Like if I'm not there yesterday, I'm a piece of garbage. I'm a piece of shit. I can't be worth anything. To come back to that inner self-worth saying, no, I'm worth it. I am enough. And I think a lot of people think when you get to the I am enough stuff, it's like, oh, don't be a baby about it. So, no, no, it's not I am enough and you're not going to do anything. That's not it. It's more I am enough. I'm worthy of investing the time and the energy into.
Yeah.
This is there's substance here. I'm not going to shortchange that. And you have to get over the fact that people might judge you like, yeah, today, what'd you say? You know, you're just sitting up in bed for 5 minutes before you get your day going. If that's if it was a baby doing that, we'd be like, wow, what a miracle. You did
Yeah.
it on your own. Yay. But we forget like that might actually be where somebody's skill set is or regress to. Like, and that's we can't it's continues to be fascinating to me that we're just adults or pardon we're babies in adult meat suits. And if we can soften our own judgment long enough to see that in other people, it's so much easier to support and love them in the way they need to be loved because you're just talking to that ultimately innocent little person inside of them who's just scared, who's trying to figure out the world just the way we are at the same time. And there can be some beautiful level of empathy in that. So I really loved how you're just saying, yeah, like it might be this slow, steady, consistent process, but you could actually maintain it because you actually build the strength. It's like the baby wobbles and falls the first few times. Well, just learn to wobble and stand and then wobble and walk. And we got to get some more patience around that. Just kind of make the long and short of what I'm saying there. So I love what you're saying here. You're just awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I love talking with you, and I've been really enjoying listening to the podcast. And I heard something not too long ago that is something else that I really want to spread. And I think that men need to sit in the company of men that have healed perspectives of women, and women need to sit in the company of other women that have healed perspectives of men, because, in this realm of coaching and intuition and compassion and empathy, you've said yourself, I've heard you say it a few times, me and my buddy were the only men in these things. We need to shift that understanding on both sides, that empathy and compassion is necessary for everybody, and for women to embrace and recognize that there actually are men out there that get it, that can feel their emotions, that can hold space, that even know what those words mean.
It
So
took,
I love what you're doing.
oh, well, thank you. Believe you me, it's been a interesting journey. And, I don't know if my buddy listens to this or not. This is a different friend. I had a couple of friends come up. Oh, they slept over. They're a couple of my college buddies. They slept over at my house. We went on a little vision quest as well. Um, and it was kind of like a last hurrah slash kind of their version of helping me through like a rite of passage, because
Mhm.
they're both fathers. But it was this very, we came from just like, our bro-ish college days.
Mhm.
And here we are 17, 18 years later now, which is kind of baffling for me to say out loud. And what I witnessed as we're hanging out there, the questions we were asking and the depth and the love and the like, just, it was just different. And I think what's important is that, why I'm saying this is that on the surface, while we all look like a bunch of just bros, we also can have both sides. And it doesn't mean you can't still have very strong tendencies. And I think that that's misconstrued. I think it's also misconstrued by women too. Like,
Mhm.
I look a certain way. I get it. I probably look like your all American frat boy who's just like down to clown. But and for a long time, it was just scary to talk about these things. But I know in myself, the depth, both in my male and my female friendships now, because of getting to a point where like I need to tap into this. Such a The depth and the enjoyment and the fulfillment in the relationships, how quickly I can come to tears of joy is
Yeah.
incredible. And it was through accessing the dark side of it too.
Mm.
My long way of saying, like, I hope other people give themselves permission to go on the journey. And the reason why I've resonated with quite a bit of some of your own journey was like, you get to this moment where you're just hit a sticking point. And I think we've kind of both alluded to like this, the weight loss thing. I think the weight loss is a very common one for most people to wrap their head around. It's not a weight problem. It's a stress problem, but a stress problem is like a container problem. You have only so much space in your life to fit a certain amount of things. But what I've continued to learn is also, you keep trying to put a lot of these things in here because you don't know who you are. And if you don't know who
Mm.
you are, you don't know what to let go of. You don't know what no longer serves you. So the deeper journey is into understanding who you are as an individual, to grapple with identity. And it's it's very difficult for me to I've struggled to describe, like, that's the separation from whether it's financial struggles or relational struggles or health struggles. It always is this, especially from a chronic standpoint, it always comes down to this root of like, who is this person underneath that? And the only way to explore that is it was me exploring more the feminine side of myself, tapping into that energy and creating more harmony and more balance in my life so I could approach both my wife and my female friends with the energy that's appropriate there, but also my male friends with the energy that was appropriate there. And I don't know. I'm saying all this because I hope that anybody listening to that can realize that you can still show up as yourself, just contextually appropriate to the audience you're speaking to, and you can have such deeper, more beautiful connections with the people we have. So it was also kind of my long way of saying thank you for saying a very nice thing about me, because it's been a scary road to get here. So
Oh, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. And what's interesting is, I find that there are a lot of women out there also that need to get in touch with their feminine energy. I know that I was stuck in a masculine energy, and what that is for women is a protection. And defense mechanisms are self denials almost every single time. And when I finally was able to recognize that, I was in a very masculine energy for many, many years. I mean, I tattoo artist, and it's even funny because I have a different relationship with my tattoos now than I did when I got them.
Wow.
And it's not that I regret them, it's just that I see now how I was in a very masculine energy where I did use them as a little bit of a shield, and I don't need them for that reason. I still love the story that they tell, because that is how I got to where I am. But there needs to be a shift, I think, globally in a lot of people to a more feminine energy, because nobody can do it all. Like there needs to be that balance, there needs to be that yin yang. That's why there are opposites of almost everything, so that we can complement each other and work together. And and that masculine energy, feminine energy is literally, to my mind, just about energy and not necessarily gender. But I am more comfortable and I am more at ease now that I've shifted into a more feminine energy than in a masculine energy. And I don't think people really have enough of an understanding of those two energies. Take gender out of it. I don't need to talk about that. I don't need to get into that at all. Let's just talk about energies. And, where does your energy feel at home? Let's bring you into that home-like energy, whatever that looks like for you.
Just enjoy your company. You don't know this, but my acronym, I have a little saying for my method. We'll call it the Naked Sunday method. Is happiness starts at home, and HOME is a acronym for each level. So what you just said there, it's like it's true, but like your happiness, like home, really has to be within you. What you were just talking, like coming home to yourself. What you're saying
Absolutely.
there, I think that we're in a day and age where we do need to make a true peace with the opposite sex ultimately, but like there's this combative nature, and it's also just a reflection of our combative nature within ourselves. We have a poor relation with probably some feminine figure in our past as a guy, vice versa for women. Go figure. We're trying to play. You said it really well. How do you say, like, you can't be all of it or something like that? It was something along those lines. You're trying to be,
Yeah, I
I'll say
mean,
something you're not, but like you're too much in this other energy. Like you can be just yourself, and that's enough. Like that was kind of what I was hearing, and then I might have missed a little bit of that, but mm, yeah, I think that so many people are just at this internal conflict and they're hurting themselves.
yeah. And I mean, and it's, because not enough people are taking enough time with themselves or for themselves. And there's a million and one distractions out there, and it's almost, the system is rigged. I won't say it's almost, but the system is rigged. I mean, it's everything between marketing and social media and media is divisive and competitive and comparative and distracting, and keeping up with the Joneses and keeping up with the Kardashians, and going back to like in-depth conversations. Man, I can't tell you a thing about mainstream, probably much of anything, television, sports, music. I got nothing. But I can look through your lawn and tell you what you can eat and use as medicine. And that's what I want to talk about.
One of those is more valuable in the apocalypse, especially with that, the world just shut down because one person couldn't just reset whatever that was. Madness. Oh my God. I'm looking at the time. I want to get to our fun questions. Let's do
Okay.
3 questions. Question number 1. What sports or creative activities did you play when you were younger, and how did you play them?
I did not do sports.
Mhm.
I dabbled in softball until it got to where I had to try out. And then I was done. But art, drawing, I would sit and draw and paint for hours and hours and hours and hours. I'm kind of an old soul, so I did, when I was younger, I did a lot of counted cross stitch and sewing and bead stringing, making jewelry. So that was more my jam when I was a kid.
Love it. Love it. So I'll share why I asked this question. In college, I studied kinesiology. One of the classes I took was on play.
Hmm.
And I always say this, I kind of just cast it aside at the time because, but what they said was like, play really teaches you a lot, shows you a lot about who you are and how you go about problem solving and going through things. So what I heard in that is that much like you are today, you have all these different things. You have a lot of these different disciplines in art, in creative energies,
Hmm.
whether it's in like the woo or the more clinical hypnotherapy style, or just the coffee, the two different styles of coffee that are of your brands. I think that's really cool, and that it's showing that you're using all these different disciplines in a very creative fashion. So in a strange way, like you've always been you. So I think that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Great.
I tried not to be. It didn't work out.
We can't be anything but ourselves, right? Like it
No, we
keeps
cannot.
shining through.
Hmm.
So question number two then. Question number two is, you're stranded on a desert island and you can only bring one movie and one TV series with you. And that's all you get to watch for the rest of time. What movie and TV show are you bringing with you?
What dreams may come and True Blood.
What dreams may come. That's the Robin Williams one, right?
Oh God, yes.
Man, we're
Yes.
getting heartstrings off the rip here. Let's go.
Oh, and it's
Wow.
so beautiful. Like the colors and the art and it just that that's one of my all-time favorite movies that just hits so much. And then I'm a sucker for True Blood.
The vampires.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really liked that show. I fell off probably like season two or three, whatever it was, but I like vampire movies, especially
Yeah.
like Underworld one, whatever it was. That was cool. What dreams may come. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love Robin Williams. When I need a good cry, I'll usually go on like a Robin Williams series for like a week and just like watch four or five of his different movies. Usually, what's it called? Come on, Caleb. What's the one where he's the genius? The guy,
Oh,
that name is the genius. Come on.
yeah. Oh, Good Will Hunting's the only thing
Thank
that comes
you. There
to
it
mind.
is. That's what it is.
Okay.
Love it. Thank you. Anyway, similar to play, I think that the entertainment we engage in tells us a lot about what we value. And the second you said what dreams might come, I'm like, of course it would be. Because it's such a deep dive into like like love, hate, hell, darkness, both like, and there's so many incredible kind of themes that are intertwined into that. I think and Robin Williams is such an incredible actor on top of that.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was,
Yeah. And it's a dive into the psyche.
yeah, go figure. Like, of course,
Yeah.
that's going to be the thing you're gonna engage with, right?
Yeah.
That's
Makes
how I
sense.
was like, duh. Of course. I had a real tough time with like artsy stuff when I was younger. The irony is my father's an artist and my sister's also an incredible artist. Like the stuff that just they can go, oh, this came out of my mind today. I go, how did you do that? How did you just like poof, you can just draw this, paint this, whatever. I'm like, it's incredible. But I really didn't have a deep appreciation for it. And especially when I took a film and lit class in high school. And man, I was a real pain in the ass. Um, because she was like talking, and I'm looking at my blinds right here in the corner. She's like, we're looking and analyzing a Hitchcock thing where there was like the shadows, the blinds over him, and like this is supposed to represent him being trapped and feeling caged. And I was like, they're thinking too hard about this. And the problem is I can't unsee that now in life and now, but I'm like, and you talked about that mass hypnosis earlier. And you said it when you're watching a movie and you're feeling a certain way and you're really engrossed into the thing. And I'm like, they've got me hypnotized. I'm feeling trapped too. Is that character feeling trapped or am I feeling trapped? Why am I so embodying their feelings right now? That's what's
Yep.
going on here. So,
Suggestibility.
yeah, it really works. Third and final question, my dear. What is your deathbed meal? Who are you sharing it with and why?
Ooh, deathbed meal. Probably some lobster for sure.
Ooh.
Yeah. Who am I sharing it with? Jeez. Probably my husband. We have been through so much together, and with all of the ups and downs and all of the growth and everything, there isn't anybody that I would rather spend that time with, you know? Probably the first human that's ever seen and accepted me for who I am. So that's huge.
Hmm. Well, now you're going to know why I love that response beyond just like it's beautiful in and of itself. So, first and foremost, I think that world peace is going to be solved one family dinner at a time
Mm,
because, as you said, right, was it 0 to 8 is when all of these kind of the subconscious getting really wired. But what are we typically doing? Like we're around our family. That's where all the things get wound up and to sit and share a meal and to converse and to connect and to work through this stuff, I think is really beautiful. And food is such a powerful medium. It's not just food that's on the plate, it's culture, it's everything dived into that. But especially, when we think about our deathbed, who's there with us sharing those final moments. I share this all the time, but a few years ago, I officiated my youngest brother's wedding, and my speech was called The Window in the Mirror.
mm.
I started with the eyes are the windows to the soul, but what if it's something more? The general premise around this is that I believe it's also a mirror. And ultimately, like the person we're sharing this with, when we're looking into somebody's eyes, we are seeing a reflection of ourselves. What's our potential? What is our capacity? What is where we are? And within that, again, since it's the wedding, it's like when you feel lost, look into the eyes of your partner, look into their soul, but you're also seeing yourself. And what you just said about being accepted and being seen for who you truly are. I thought that was really beautiful because I think it is our soulmates who bring the best out of us. And on our final meal, on our final day, if we have the choice to share that with somebody, they are showing us the highest amount of growth, the fullest growth of our in the pursuit of our highest self. So I thought that was really beautiful in how we do that. And the overarching story to all three of those questions is my way of sharing a little bit of like my own love in my life. Because when I was growing up, my father, he traveled a lot. He did a lot of shows for work to sell his art. But I always knew he loved me. And it's because once every 4 to 6 weeks, we would always go out for a boys' night, talking about being present. The phone's away, all the other distractions was gone. We'd go to the sports authority. We talk about sports, whatever that thing is going on. It was not so much about the thing. We'd go have a meal together and we'd catch a movie. And that was my way of always feeling like, wow, okay, dad cares. Dad's with me. And it's special. So it's my way of kind of bringing you into that little moment of love and connection and sharing that with you.
Love that.
And
Thank you for sharing that.
you're welcome. I like to think back on my stories with a lot of love and happiness. And I like to share that with the people I love and appreciate along the way with it too. So
Well, you know what's wonderful because you had that experience, you're going to know how to bring that forward with your baby girl and make sure that you're cultivating those experiences. One of the things that I always did with my kids was back to school shopping. I always made sure to take them individually. We made a big day of it. It's one of those things where, especially my son, he did not really like doing it, but because it was done in this way of we're dropping your sister off. It's just you and me. We're going to go out and have a nice meal together. Let's get the shopping done and then we can have the rest of the day for fun. Because I lived in the middle of nowhere. So for us to come into Albany, and be in a place where there's access to a movie theater was like huge for them when they were kids. And it's really important to make sure that you're always coming back and checking in with your kids and having those one-on-ones and making sure that they feel seen and heard and acknowledged. So
Mm.
you're gonna do wonderfully
I
with this little
appreciate
girl.
and I appreciate that vote of confidence as much as I'm still scared out of my mind. Just like, here we go. The most beautiful thing about these past 9 months, or whatever, however, is it really 10 months? I
Mm.
can't count it properly. The amount of love that I have seen come out of the woodwork, friends, family. Wow, it like really touches my heart to see that this has been here all along. And I've said it a few times, both at our gender reveal and at the baby showers. Like, this baby didn't just come into existence just because of the two of us. It
Mm.
is the culmination of all of these beautiful people that have been sharing these moments with us that shepherded both my wife and I to where we're at in life. We're the like she is the consequence of an infinite amount of decisions
Mm.
of like love and connection. Here I'm getting a little emotional, I might get choked up. But when I think about that, it's this outward reflection of the love that resides in my wife's womb. And it's just, man, it just hits a different way. So God, I'm glad we got to
It,
share that moment together.
it's such a wonderful experience that 15 years later, I needed to do it again.
We're going back for more.
Yep, yep. So I just a couple weekends ago, I had my middle child's graduation ceremony and graduation party as I prepare my littlest for kindergarten. So that's where I'm at.
Oh, that's got to be so unique seeing those two like big milestones in contrast at the same time. Like, unique perspective, really unique.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, just to see how different I am, like my older kids get a little upset sometimes because they look at me and they're like, oh my God, we would have never gotten away with that. Why do you let her get away with that? And I was like, I have a completely different perspective on things now. And, I try to remind them, like, you may have had a mom that was a little bit more strict. I was still under the impression that I needed to make them sit at the table for hours and hours and hours on end, staring at green beans that they were never going to eat. I don't have that philosophy anymore. Sorry to my first two. But they had the young mom that was like going skiing and roller skating and had a lot of time and less things to do, fewer obligations. She has a slower, more intentional mom, but they had like the young, fun water fights in the kitchen. And now I'm like, I'm tired. I'm not cleaning that up. So it's different, but it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I can't wait to reconnect to see how it's going for you.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, if anybody's listening right now and they're like, I just love her, I need to have her in my life for some hypnotherapy, some breakthroughs to tap into that inner intuition. Somebody's listening right now. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Probably through the website. It's synergyhypnotherapy.com. There's a lot of different contact forms and information on there. And, anybody listening, I'd be happy to offer a free mini session. We'll do, of course, the pre-induction and the theory of mind, and we'll do a really quick mini hypnosis. We're not going to dive too deep into anything, just to be able to experience what hypnosis is and what hypnotherapy looks like, and really have a good knowledge base to see if it's something that, is a good fit for whatever your needs are.
Hmm. That will all be in the show notes, everybody. So if you didn't write that down, don't you worry. I promise. Go there, click the link. It'll send you right to her. Leslie, you're awesome. I'm really grateful that you've come into my life. Go figure, a friend connection puts new
Yeah.
connections together, which is really cool. What final words of wisdom would you like to leave our audience with today?
Just spend time with yourself, because you've got all the tools, you've got everything that you need. It's all inside of you if you just stop the chatter and listen, because that critical mind, that ego is not working for you. Probably you've got to really get down deep into the silent part. And your intuition is quiet, so you have to listen really hard to it. Your ego is loud, it's yelling at you. So just quiet it down so you can hear that smaller voice, because it's got pretty much everything you need.
Ooh. Mic drop moments to round it out. That was beautiful. This has been excellent today. I'm so excited we finally got to do this. Thanks for
Yes, me
being
too.
here as well. That was fun. That was a blasty blast. I think I might have to come do some past life regression with you, because I've wanted to do it since I heard about it.
Oh, I would love to. I love past life regressions. And occasionally I do full moon fireside group past life regressions, but you can get a little bit more out of a one-on-one, because if you go too deep into hypnosis, there's can be some amnesia. So one-on-one, you've got somebody else, there to fill in some of the pieces for you. But the fireside is fun too.
Sounds like I've got my next fun thing before. Maybe I'll do that before the baby comes.
There you go.
Thank you so much for hanging with us today, everybody. Go check out the show notes. Go connect with Leslie. You will be incredibly happy that you did. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for having me.
Grateful for you. Thanks, everybody, for sharing your time and energy with us today. And until next time, I remind you to love every body.